Good day. Welcome to another session of Fog Accountancy Tutorials. Today we are going to look at markups and margins, how to calculate them and what to do with them when you meet them. This is a topic or a concept that a lot of people do not understand, yet many of us do not pay attention to read and understand. But most of the time, because it is not separated as a topic that comes in the exam on its own, we tend not to pay attention to it. But when they come and we are supposed to apply them in solving practical questions, then we begin to fumble as to which to use or what to do at every situation. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to try and give you the difference between a markup and a margin, and then how to calculate when there is a markup and how to calculate when there is a margin, and when to even use the markup and when to use the margin. So please remember to subscribe to this channel if this is your first time or you are yet to subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel and then ring the notification bell as well. It is very important that you don't just come and watch and learn and move, but you just have to subscribe to the channel, which is also a very important thing that you must do to help us grow and then also reach other people just as you have been reached. Okay. Now, I'm not going to waste too much time on this too, okay? This is a very short video. Now, a markup. Let us begin with markup. Now, markup is a percentage or a fraction that is calculated on cost price. Let me try, before I even go there, let me explain something to you. Now, we know that let's assume that this is the marker that I'm selling, okay? For each marker that I produce, I incur cost. So I'll have a cost price for the marker. Then I will not sell it, okay? I'm not going to sell it on a break even. I will sell it at a profit. So I'm going to add a profit element before I arrive at my selling price. So even if I bought it to sell, how much I bought it is my cost price. Then there is a profit element before I arrive at the selling price. Okay. Now, that is when I'm talking about per unit. That is why I look at cost price, profit, and selling price. Now, assuming that I'm looking at it in bulk, then the total number of markets that I bought, whatever cost associated will be my cost. Okay, cost of it. So I need to add a profit element to get a total sales, whichever way that it is. Now, let us focus on the cost price concept. Now, this is what I want you to understand, that the markup is calculated on the cost price. The margin is calculated on the selling price. It is always a percentage or a fraction that will be given. So if you are told that you calculate a markup, let's say you are giving a markup of 20%. You know, the markup or the margin, whatever it is, maybe you may not understand the concept of it. It's about a percentage that you are putting on your product as your profit. So if you buy a product for, let's say, 80 cedis, and then you intend to sell it for 100 cedis, that means that your profit element is 20 cedis. Now, 80 plus 20 is 100. The question is, what percentage of profit did you put on the 80? What percentage of profit did you put on the 80? So let us assume that, come in. So let us assume that you bought the thing for 80 cedis and you were told that you will sell at a markup of 25%. You sell your products as a markup. So you bought it. The cost price is 80 cedis, but you are going to sell it at a markup of 25%. I told you that markup is calculated on cost. And so because it is markup, you are going to calculate 25% of the 80 cedis. And 25% of 80 is going to give you 20 cedis. And that means that your selling price eventually will be 100 cedis, which is the 80 cedis plus plus the 20 cedis. So it is your cost price plus the profit. And how did we arrive at this profit? We arrive at the profit by calculating the percentage of 25% on the cost price, which is the 80. Now, I have said and I'm repeating that markup is calculated on the cost. Margin is calculated on selling price. So you see, If it is margin, it should be calculated on selling price. If it is markup, it should be calculated on the cost price. So over here, we were told it's a markup of 25%. So that means it should be calculated on the cost price. If we were told that we are selling at a margin of 25%, let us assume it wasn't a markup, but we're supposed to calculate at a margin of 25%. Then it means that this 25% is supposed to be calculated on a selling price to get the profit component and not on the cost price. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Meanwhile, we have not been given any selling price. So you need to find a way to get a selling price before you calculate. Okay, yes. So let me just focus on the markup. I'll switch again to the margin. So what I'm trying to say is that markup is calculated on cost, but margin is on selling price. So like I said, markup is calculated on the cost. Now, when it comes to margin is calculated on the profit. Margin is calculated on the selling price. And so let us assume that you are told that Kofi sells goods at a selling price of, let's say, 120 cedis. Okay? And you are told that he applies 20% margin. So calculate the profits. If you want to calculate the profit, because this is already in selling price, you are going to calculate 20% of the 120 because it's in margin. Okay? Because it is in margin, you are going to calculate 20% of 120. And whatever answer that you have, which is 24, is going to be the profit component. And that means that if you take this profit of 24 away from the selling price, you are going to arrive at the cost price. So that is how margin and markup works. Markup is calculated on cost. Margin is calculated on selling price. So markup is calculated on cost of sales or cost of production. The margin is calculated on the sales revenue itself. That is how to arrive at the profit. But the real trouble with this is that when you are given to calculate you are given a markup, and instead of you being given cost to calculate on the cost, you are given a selling price. So you are given markup, but you have been given a selling price, and you know that markup cannot apply on selling price. Markup must apply on cost. Meanwhile, you have been given selling price. Or let's say you've been given a margin, and what you have been given is cost. So let's say you are doing job costing, you've been able to calculate total cost of the job. You are supposed to find the profit on the job before you find the selling price of the job. And after getting the cost price, you have been given a percentage as a margin instead of a markup. You know, once you are able to get total cost of the job, you need a markup percentage to get your profit. But if you are given a margin, it means that you cannot apply the margin on the cost, because I have said that margins are applied on the selling price, markups are applied on the cost. So what you have to do is to convert the margin into markup. Or if you are given a markup to apply on a selling price, you have to change the markup to margin. And that is what I'm going to teach you, how to change your markups to margins and your margins to markup. That is very, very important. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is to teach you how to, first of all, change a markup to margin. Now, I have told you that markups are calculated on costs of the production or cost price, and the margin is calculated on the sales or the selling price. Now, what I'm saying is that both of them, whether markup or margin, the essence is to find the profit percentage or the profit component. Okay, and we are saying that when you are giving markup, it is supposed to be applied on cost. When you are giving margin, it's supposed to be applied on selling price to know the profit. However, if the question wants to further stretch you, they're going to give you a markup to apply. The question has given you the selling price, but instead of them giving you the margin rate, they will give you the markup rate. So there is no compatibility. You cannot apply markup on margin on the selling price. You have to first convert the markup to margin before you can apply it. Or they will give you a margin and give you cost, which is also not compatible. You cannot apply the margin on the cost. You have to convert the margin into markup. So it gives you an extra job to do by trying to convert markups to margin and then margin to markups before you'll be able to apply. And that is what I'm going to teach you now. And so let's begin with changing of the markup to margin. If you want to change a markup to margin, take note that because you have been given a selling price and you have a markup, there is already a profit percentage on the selling price. Okay, and the profit percentage is the markup percentage that should be calculated on the cost. So let us assume that, let's assume something, that you have your cost price to be $1,500, okay, and then you have a profit component of, let's say, 300, giving you selling price of $1,800. Now, let us take note. This profit percentage, I use 20% to calculate it. Now, take note. If you are told, for example, that the question can decide to give you the selling price and then give you a markup. Now, this profit, I use 20% to calculate. 20% on their cost, and because it's 20% of 1,500 is $300, and because the 20% was applied on cost, this 20% is a markup. It is not a margin. If it was applied here, it would have been a margin, but here is a markup. So let us assume that you didn't know any of this, but you have been told that you bought an item for $1,800. Okay, with a markup of 20%. Now take note. The selling price is 1,800 with a markup of 20%. Then you are asked to find the profits on the item. So you let's say you are selling it. Okay, let me not use but you are selling it for 1,008 with a markup of 20% profit. Now take note. You are selling it for 1,008 means that it is a selling price. But you are not giving a margin, you are giving a markup. And I told you that markups and selling price are not compatible. You need to change the markup to margin. If you want to change the markup to margin, this is what you do. The 20% is the profit. So 20 over 100. But you need to add the numerator back to the denominator. That is how we change the markup to margin. So it will be 20 over 100 plus 20. The reason is simple. This 20% markup, because it has been given as a selling price, the profit of 20% has already been calculated from the cost and it's already inside the selling price. So this selling price actually represents 120%. That is the meaning. And so you need to make the 120% the denominator before you can find your true profit. If you apply the 20% straight on the 1,800, you are going to get 360. 20% of 1,800 is 360. But I have already given you the framework over here that we are looking for 20% profit, which is 300. Okay. If you apply 20% on 1,008, you are going to get 360. And that is a wrong profit. And that means that the cost price was 1,440. However, even if you reverse the workings, it's not going to work. So what I'm saying is that anytime you are supposed to change a markup to margin, please add the percentage profit or whatever the fraction, the numerator of the fraction, because we change this to fraction, it will be 20 over 100. Then we add the numerator of 20 to the denominator, and that is going to give us 20 over 120. So now when we apply 20 over 120 on the 1,800, it's going to give us 300 so that we have our profits back. The same way, if we were to apply the markup on its right, markup should be applied on the cost. So now the margin is now 20 over 120. That is the margin now. You have changed the 20 over 100 to 20 over 120. So 20 over 100 is the markup, which is 20%. 20 over 120 is the margin. So anytime you are giving a selling price and a markup, please make sure you convert it into a fraction, add the numerator to your denominator before you are able to calculate to get a correct profit. Let us also assume that we were given the 1,500 as the cost to apply the margin of 20%. Then we'll be good to go. Now take note that changing markup to margins, you can also get it as a fraction. You can be told that the markup is 1 over 5. Okay, so you are selling this for 1,008 at a markup of 1 over 5. If you want to still change this markup to margin, it's 1 over 5. The numerator is 1, so you add the 1 to the 5. That is going to give you 1 over 6. Then you multiply by the 1,008, which is still going to give you 300. So what I'm trying to say is that whether it is given as a percentage or as a fraction, what you need to do is to just convert it into the fraction form. Add the numerator to the denominator again before you can convert a markup to margin. That is what you do. Okay, I'm sure the understanding is clear. Then let us also try and learn the reverse. When we want to rather change a margin to markup. When you want to change a margin to markup. So, like I told you, if you want to change a margin to markup, then what you need to do is rather subtract. So let's say we say that you didn't know this, okay, but you have been given that the cost price of the goods is $1,500, and you are going to sell at a margin of 1 over 6. You are going to sell at a margin. You have been given cost price. Instead of you being given markup, you've been given a margin. Please, cost price and margins are not compatible. You need to convert the margin into markup. And how do we convert the margin to markup? Just like when we were moving from markup to margin, we added 1 to the denominator. This time, because we are reversing from margin to markup, we need to subtract the numerator rather from the denominator. So 1 over 6. What we are going to do when we are changing, if this is margin and we are changing to markup, is going to be 1 over 6 minus 1, which is going to give us 1 over 5. And then we multiply by the 1,005. And that is going to give us the 300. So that is what we are going to do. It could have been a percentage. Okay, it could have been a percentage. So if you were given a percentage, let's say 16%, you would have made it 16%, so 16 over 100. Then if you convert this margin to markup, it's going to be 16 over 100 minus 16, which is going to give us 16 over 84. So this is how to convert a margin to markup. So all that I'm trying to say is that when you are converting from markup into margins, you add the numerator to the denominator. When you are converting from margins to markup, you subtract the numerator from the denominator. So that is what we are going to do. So please, let us be careful. The most important point of all that I have said is that I have told you that markups move with the cost and the margins move with selling price. Maybe that was the main confusion. Once you have understood that, you should learn how to convert markup to margin. And because they know that this moves with that, they are not going to make it straightforward. Okay, they're going to give you a selling price and a markup when they know it's not compatible. Your job is to convert to the compatible mode. Or they will give you a markup, a selling price, or a margin and a cost price. Whatever it is, your job is to convert. These things can be used in so many topics, in so many questions. You may see it in manufacturing accounts when you want to calculate the manufacturing profit. You can see it in job costing. You can see it in so many mathematics and other business finance mathematics. So what I want you to understand is that you should master how to change markup to margins and how to change margins to markup. And also you should understand that margins move with the selling price or the revenue sales, and then the markups move with the cost. That is what we need to understand in this video. So like I told you earlier, this is a very short video and I know your understanding has been completed. If you have any question, you can still send it to us and we are going to clarify. Remember to subscribe to this channel. Like I said, share this video and let others also have a benefit. Let us grow together. Let us be successful together. Until we meet again another time, it is bye for now.